My name's Keith McMahon. I'm the lead analyst for the Digital Entertainment 2.0 initiative. What I'm here today to speak about is tablets and digital lockers and how they're changing patterns of content consumption. So, the state of the union on tablets. Apple's first out of the gate. Other OEMs are following fast. We've already seen tablets from Motorola, BlackBerry and Samsung. But we're still very much in the early days, the early adopters, and there's plenty of time left for further innovation, not just in price, but also in the absolute form factor and the whole ecosystem. At Telco 2.0, we did some research a while ago, and our sort of view of the market is roughly 2015 we'll have an install base of around 400 million. The install base is not the same as number of tablets sold, but it's those currently in use at the end of 2015. More than 50% of these will be Wi-Fi only, and the rest will be split evenly between those on monthly cellular wireless bills and occasional use, normally served by prepaid plans. There are some challenges in this four-screen world. We think we've moved beyond. With tablet adoption being so strong, it's not just a case of TVs, laptops and smartphones. Tablets is actually a fourth screen in its own right. So the big challenge is that TVs are basically sold on a home basis where the whole family consumption is bundled into things like pay TV services, whereas laptops, tablets and smartphones will tend to be individual items. So we've got a massive authentication and tracking of consumer data issue. We've also got an issue around what we call multimodal access. So in the past, if you were a pay TV subscriber, whether it be through a cable company or a DTH, there's just one company to deal with who's giving you access. Now, with smartphones and tablets doing both 3G and Wi-Fi and laptops being available at work as well as out the home, we're seeing multiple modes of access. That's why we call it multi-mode access from various suppliers with varying historic different charging models. So we've got a huge issue around the bundling, tethering, tiering problems for the access side of the business. The next problem is extracting value from content distribution. The pay TV companies normally have collected revenues on behalf of the content owners. And the big question is, how can new entrants, whether they be telcos or over-the-top players, build bundles which differentiate them from traditional content players? In markets like the US, where cable is and pay TV is pretty saturated, it's a huge problem. In other markets, especially in the emerging world where penetration is a lot lower, there's lots more options as pay-as-you-go models and things like that. And finally, and most importantly, is how would these new entrants gain scale? One of the key OTT players that have emerged is a company called Netflix. They've got over 25 million subscribers. They can write big checks to Hollywood, so they're quite prepared to sell them access to their library of content. For other people who are starting off on a much smaller scale and competing against like piracy in places like the Middle East and Spain and Italy, it's a much bigger problem. Finally, how can value be created from what we call enablers, so payment systems, content delivery networks and advertising? We believe in this connected TV world. The whole model of advertising as a huge opportunity to be revamped and to become a lot more effective for advertisers. So, taking an example of a DTH cable company, we use the example of Sky here in the UK. They started off with the set-top box. Now they've moved their content onto multiple devices, whether they be iPads, iPhones, or laptops, and they're bundling in the access of their content through any device at no extra price. This, in effect, gives people a lot more difficulty in competing against them. We see the same phenomenon in the States with TV Everywhere, HBO Go. 1 million copies of the application was downloaded on the iPhone within the first few days. We're also seeing the DTH cable companies move into the telco space. So even though Sky is a satellite company, they've unbundled the incumbent BT's network, and they're up to about 25% triple play penetration. We see exactly the same happening in the US. So they're effectively offering their content across multiple devices, and they're growing their addressable market by moving into communication services. First of the big internet players, Amazon, looks very committed. They've built out a huge infrastructure to support their publishing, where they're selling on buy once, read anywhere. So they sell you a book, you can read it on multiple devices, you only need to buy it once. But they're doing the same with video. So if you buy a movie from them or a TV box set, you can view that on demand, and it also puts the movie into your personal locker. They're doing the same with music, even though they don't have licenses, and there's some debate whether their service is legal. But effectively, if you buy a DVD of music from a CD of music from them, it gets automatically put into the cloud, and you can stream it into multiple devices. So if you're at work, you can use a PC client to stream your personal musical collection and it not being loaded at work. You can do the same with Android. Obviously, they've got problems with iPhones. But the real point that they're trying to do is leverage their retail experience with the pricing skills and consumer reach to replicate their success with physical goods in the digital goods area. They bought the UK equivalent of Netflix, which are effectively selling subscriptions and competing head-on with the cable companies. And they're quite used to the subscription model because they've already got millions of subscribers to their Amazon Prime service. They're basically focused upon an ownership model. Apple have took a slightly different approach. They're still focusing on an ownership and rental model, but they've moved away from having all their content synchronized through the PC or the laptop, and they're just introducing cloud services in the US. Their main focus to begin with is on the books and the music. They don't yet have a film service. Perhaps they're waiting for the launch later this year of Ultraviolet, and then they can trump that. But they're not really streaming. What they're actually doing is synchronizing content pushed out to multiple devices. Apple is really all about selling devices and being the single solution for all the consumers' media needs. So Google are getting into the game. Traditionally, they've used an ad-funded model to support services like YouTube. Whether this will be successful, whether the ad-funded model has enough value in it for some of the hit content that the movies and the music people provide, is open to question. But they're building out the degree of services with YouTube, Google Books, and Google Music. They've traditionally had a very adversarial role with the content owners and have been frequently in court over IP issues. But there's no doubt that Google have a huge advertising network and the technical infrastructure to support their cloud structures. What's interesting about Google as well is they're extending their platforms onto other devices. So Android is being built out as the solution for smartphones and tablets. They even have a Google TV solution, and Google Chrome is an alternative network emerging for notebooks. They have a rental and ownership hedge with the Android market where you can rent or buy films, but we understand from our analysis that this is very, very low volume currently. Telcos are taking a very mixed approach. Theoretically, especially the telcos with both fixed and mobile networks, they're in a very strong position to manage all these devices in all the 4 screens and provide services to manage them. They're also in a position to provide upstream services for the media companies. Historically, they've always provided broadcast services. They're moving more into content delivery, but there's a lot more that they can do in terms of identity authentication, billing and payments, customer analysis, and even customer care. For their own downstream services, we're seeing different types of approaches. Verizon Fios is a notable success story where they're mirroring the cable company's approach with faster access through fibre and some interesting features around content discovery and content storage. So to wrap up in conclusion, the existing pay TV operators are likely to bundle tablet and laptop access to content with the main subscription. We believe right today, especially in highly penetrated pay TV markets, these are likely to be the winners. The internet giants, they're moving fast, but mainly in North America and Europe. They've got a large sort of like hill to climb, but we believe they're going to take the position of business model innovators and disruptors. The telcos around the world are taking very, very different approaches. We think it's looking right today as if the telcos are going to be the laggards, and they really need to do some radical rethinking of how they're going to capture a slice of this content pie. All the surveys that we've seen show that the consumers currently are extremely confused with all these multiple screens and connected TVs and how they all link together. And it's very much still an early adopter market. The ultimate result, though, is the consumers likely to have greater choice. Whether they pay out a larger share of their wallet for some of this content is open to question. And finally, we're in a period of great change, and that brings great opportunities for the winners when they eventually emerge. Thank you.